Before I tell you a couple of stories about failing schools, actually, they're not failing because of bad grades or lack of money. I'm going to tell you about some successes in education. You have until I think it's midnight, May 2nd, which is this weekend, to nominate your favorite teachers. Tell us why you believe your teacher deserves to be recognized as our Teacher of the Year. Now, when I was in school, a lot of our teachers had that Darth Vader image. On the other hand, we didn't give them any lip. I am your teacher, Luke. The winning teacher will be awarded a computer and we will give their school a $500 cash donation. Now, I want to point out, you can do this by going to our websites, and newsradio1310.com, of course, is the website for News Radio 1310 KLIX, but we have a whole family of websites, Town Square Media websites, right here in Twin Falls, and so you can check out any of those. We also want to point out that this is brought to you by AMCO. People who know, go to AMCO. And a couple of other quick notes, too. Speaking of schools, this came from the Christian Science Monitor, which could be called the Liberal Science Monitor. I don't know that there's much Christian about it at all. The writers, this used to be a newspaper, and now it's simply, the last few years, online and greatly reduced in stature. It's still read, though, on college campuses by the people in hemp clothing and comfortable shoes teaching most of the classes. Transgender teen will not return to school after bathroom suspension. Oh dear. Oh, the world is coming to an end. Teachers don't typically follow students when they take a bathroom break from a pep rally, but that's what happened when a student at Sikorsky High School in Horry County, South Carolina, that's spelled Horry, just in case you're thinking something funny there, had to use the bathroom in January. Because of the bathroom trip, the student was suspended for using the boys' bathroom, which so you can tell what type of publication this is. He had been using since the 7th grade, he says. When that teacher trailed the student to the bathroom, she wanted to make sure he used the right one. He told CNN. That's because this student is transgender. In other words, he is a she. Just like the teacher who said, "Stay out of the dang bathroom. Your bathroom's over there." Well, all right. Why not just say, "Look, there's a forest out back. Go ahead. Here's a shovel." Back in the days of the old outbuilding, you didn't really have much of a choice. How about this? This comes from, I believe, the Daily Caller. Only girls should share a locker room, according to one Florida school board. A Florida school board voted late Tuesday night to only allow students to use bathrooms and locker rooms that correspond with their biological sex. Now, I just spent, a good 20 minutes praising Donald Trump for his speech yesterday. Where he falls short, in my opinion, is he's okay with some 35-year-old grubby man going in and squatting next to your 3-year-old daughter in the bathroom. We've got to get that man's mind set straight on some of these issues. The Marion County School Board, in a 4-1 vote, overturned a policy created by the district superintendent, which allowed students to pick their own bathroom based on gender identity. Under the new policy, any student who identifies as transgender may request an appropriate alternative facility. There's the garden shed. Yeah, go ahead. If he or she is uncomfortable using a facility that matches the student's biological sex. Now, as I said earlier, people are going to say, well, you're going to give these young people a complex. Look, if you're a 12-year-old and you're a boy and you think you're a girl, or vice versa, you've already got a dang complex. Daily Signal. U.S. Commission on Civil Rights fails to understand religious liberty laws. These people are trying to convince the state of North Carolina to drop its restrictions, that say that if you're biologically one or the other, that's what you've got to use. But a 9-page dissent released by 2 members of the commission defended both the common sense nature of the religious freedom legislation attacked by the majority and the motives of those advocating for such laws. After asking the rest of the commission to please take a deep breath, the dissenting members point out that, unfortunately, it is not entirely clear that the statements, the signees, that is, have actually read the relevant legislation, and the 2 said, "We have." The dissent then provides point-by-point refutation of the commission's assertions. The commission says that Tennessee's HB 1840, which was passed by the legislature and is awaiting the governor's decision, quote, will permit mental health professionals to deny counseling services to LGBT people based upon sincerely held religious beliefs, unquote. And there's nothing of the sort that's actually going on in Tennessee. Yet these people, bureaucrats in Washington, are making these ridiculous claims. Liberals all over the country are making all of these ridiculous claims about these laws. Why is it they are so heck bent on having boys or men use the little girl's potty? You know, and that they're willing to lie in order to back all of this up. There was a fellow writing at sayanythingblog.com. This is out of North Dakota. His name, I believe, is James Kieran. And he says something to the effect of some people, due to a psychiatric condition now called gender dysphoria, are uncomfortable with this arrangement and would rather have bathrooms assigned by how one feels about oneself. And he said that recognizing that this new government mandate was ill-considered, in North Carolina, the legislature overruled a city ordinance from Charlotte. This is the part where the American left decided to lose its collective mind over the situation and then start claiming they're just being mean down there. No, they are protecting the little girls. Social media-created frenzy, he writes, has made the corporate political response so disproportionate it is simply laughable. I don't know if you've heard this or not yet, but Franklin Graham, yesterday morning, 700,000 people had signed the petition against Target, which is going to have this policy. Graham said by yesterday afternoon it was 850,000. By today it should be over 1 million. Maybe Lefty is going to start realizing the power of the right. 20 minutes now from 9 o'clock. I wanted to mention, I have not been promoting that Target boycott. The last time I went to Target, I think it was just before Christmas. I've lived in Twin Falls 16 months, and I've been to that Target store twice. Once I looked at a toaster, didn't buy it. Another time I went back and I bought I needed a copy of A Charlie Brown Christmas for the DVD player, and nobody else seemed to have one, so I managed to find one at Target. But Target has said that it's going to allow this policy where, if you think that you're a boy and you're a girl, and if you think that you're a girl and you're a boy, you can use whatever dang bathroom you want to use. And, of course, just sneak right in there after somebody let their little children go in. A lot of people aren't happy about that. So I'm guessing if you had 700,000 signatures on the boycott petition yesterday morning and 850,000 by yesterday afternoon, you're likely at 1 million this morning. And as I brought up earlier, Franklin Graham has gotten on board, and he's promoting the boycott as well. I'm not a big boycott guy, simply because having been the subject of that myself on a few occasions during the history of my broadcast career, I don't know that it's very effective. And in fact, it brings more attention. So when you say we're going to have a boycott, then all of the, admittedly, the people who have this gender disorder are likely a fraction of 1% of the population. I don't know that they're all going to say, well, I will shop at Target and I'll show all of those Christian conservatives. I don't know that they really are going to have much of an impact. But if liberals in general decide that they're going to shop at Target, but for liberals, Target is sort of pedestrian. If you know what I mean, it's a little bit like going to Walmart or Kmart, and liberals don't want to be seen in those places. Liberals are the type of people who tell you, well, I never watch television. What they mean is, when they're watching Mad Men and you're watching a ball game, but they say they never watch television. They say, well, I never eat fast food, and, but they'll sneak into McDonald's, with a hat pulled down over their ears because everyone eats there, for crying out loud. But I don't think that they shop at Target a whole heck of a lot. And so I really don't know that this is going to balance out the so-called boycott effort. But it does one thing, and it does one very important thing, and it shows Lefty, and it shows corporate America that this notion that somehow this is okay, and corporate America now says, well, gee willikers, we've got to be inclusive. Well, if you want to tick off traditional America and not have their business, you're going to lose your shirt. And no, you can't go out and sell one to yourself. I mean, there's no profit in that. 846, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Telephone number to reach our program, 736-0300. That's 736-0300. Or send me an email, bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com, bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com. What's been interesting, we've been having this discussion for a few weeks about this issue off and on, in the course of the show. I don't think I've had one person call me and try to defend it. I don't think I've had one person email me and try and defend it. So why do you have so many large corporations and people in entertainment who are trying to do it? How could they be so wrong on this one? Because they feel they've been so right about everything else, and that they feel that everything that they believe is somehow ordained and self-evident truth. And they're going to lose this battle. This is, as I said a couple of weeks ago, this is A Bridge Too Far. Great movie, by the way, with Sean Connery. That was a book as well. But A Bridge Too Far is a story about the effort to try to take the bridge at Arnhem and end World War II in the West early. But it didn't work out the way the Allies had planned it. I think that this is, for the left, this is their Arnhem Bridge. This is the end. I want to remind people, if you're listening to our program today, God bless you, and I hope you keep listening. But in order to keep listening, you have to protect your hearing. And I've been telling you for months now, almost a year, I think, that you need to talk with Dr. Christine Pickup, a doctor of audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology in Rupert. Did you know that your hearing health and your brain health are connected? At Mount Harrison Audiology, they've been studying the research on cognitive health and hearing. The most recent findings prove that when hearing loss is addressed with hearing aids, the effects of cognitive decline are greatly diminished. Hearing is critical for communication, for connection to others, and for overall well-being. And now would be the time to improve your hearing. You can call Mount Harrison Audiology for an appointment. Telephone number is 208-312-0957. We have been spared this whole bathroom nonsense, albeit maybe my memory is going along with my hearing. I seem to remember some months ago, and it was very quietly reported, that right here in Twin Falls, the high schools, or one of them, made a decision on these transgendered bathrooms and said, go ahead. I brought it up on the air. I got no response. I haven't heard anything about it since. I haven't read anything about it since. But obviously there are people in the local education industry who they don't have a good sense of what the local culture happens to be, because the local culture is definitely opposed to this. This isn't San Francisco. I meet people who fled San Francisco and moved here because they didn't want that lifestyle. They couldn't stand that culture. They didn't want to raise their kids there. They came here to flee that and get away from it. And I've not heard a peep out of anybody since then about what may be happening at our local schools. To think, though, that the northwestern part of the country is immune to all of this, I think would be ridiculous, because the one thing about the devil, once he gets a foothold, he tries to spread his impact throughout, the entire world. This is coming out of Washington State. Talk about politically correct silliness. University of Washington. Got a terrible football team. Just want to remind all of you U of W fans that I've been watching, and I don't find a reason why I should watch any longer. But the University of Washington does have a lot of sports programs, and because of that, cheerleading still exists, although the what Rush Limbaugh calls them, the feminazis, the women in comfortable shoes, they've been trying to eliminate cheerleaders for years because, it's sexist. I mean, men might actually like these girls, and then they might settle down and get married, and then they might have pregnancy, and then they might not get an abortion, and then they might have more children, and then all of those carbon footprints running around in the living room will destroy the planet. We can't have that. So Lefty and his minions in the comfortable shoes, the women in comfortable shoes, have been trying to eliminate cheerleading squads from across the country. Well, we're getting there. This is a story from Tom Graham reporting for Fox News. University of Washington politically correct crowd is upset with cheerleading advice.
The University of Washington says it has now removed an infographic that gives prospective cheerleaders tips on how to prepare for tryouts. Many students taking issue with the advice on how to do their hair and makeup. Some found it objectifying to women. Others said it was sexist. The graphic also features a blonde white cheerleader as the example. One student called that racist, telling the Seattle Times, as a woman of color, she found the poster offensive and exclusionary. UW officials say they created the infographic in the first place as a response to an overwhelming amount of questions about cheerleading and dance team tryouts. Tom Graham, Fox News.
Do you think that one young lady who felt it was offensive and exclusive would have felt better? Maybe if the women in the picture had been like black on one side and white on the other. Or maybe if she'd had like one black leg and one white leg, or one black arm and one white arm. Maybe we could have had a yellow leg in there and a red leg, and So if we'd actually picked a black model and put the black model in the photograph, here's a question for you. Would then Whitey be offended? And would Whitey say that's exclusionary? Because my guess is on the U of W campus, 75 to 80% of the students are likely white. It is Washington State, after all. It's not Mississippi. So your student pool, generally coming from the state of Washington, not everybody, but generally coming from the state of Washington, is a reflection of where you live for the most part. And so who would please them then instead? If we remove Whitey, then what should we put up there? Could we paint someone purple? Could she have warts with hair coming out of them? Would that make the women in comfortable shoes feel better about all of this? 852, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 44. And you can reach our program today by giving me a telephone call at 736 0300, 736 0300. Old cartoon I remember with Porky Pig and Daffy Duck. And Daffy Duck is just trying to harass Porky Pig. Porky Pig he paints scenic scenes. He goes out in the country, sets up an easel, and then will paint things. So Daffy Duck disguises himself as a mountain man and comes down and says, I don't want you painting those mountains, I own those, and then takes his elbow and wipes away all the paint on the canvas. Well, this is very similar right now. I don't want to look at a blonde white cheerleader, that's got to go. Well, what would you like to look at? I don't know, a big lump of sweat. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll talk about sweat. We'll have the women go out and play football with the men and learn to sweat and get pounded into the mud and the dirt, and then we'll all feel equal. Actually, we better outlaw football because it's mean-spirited and dangerous, and it involves violence. Speaking of that boycott at Target about the unisex bathrooms, and again, they're just trying to destroy everyone's notion of, look, I'm a boy. I know that. I can get up in the morning. I showered today. I had to clean myself up, and I had to look in the mirror. It's pretty obvious. And so I don't have any desires to go use the ladies' room. Well, if there was a long line at the men's room, but it usually works in the opposite way. And again, I would just, as being a guy, I'd find somewhere out in the back field, behind the horse barn or whatever. Franklin Graham, this is from the Christian Post. Franklin Graham says he's standing with the nearly 1 million people who have signed a petition to boycott Target over its new bathroom policy that allows men to go into women's bathrooms if they identify as female. Target is putting its shareholders and its customers at risk. Just since last Wednesday, over 854,000 people have signed a pledge to boycott Target over its new bathroom policy that welcomes employees and guests to use the restrooms or fitting rooms that corresponds with their gender identity. Target certainly has the prerogative to make this decision, but it's proving to be bad for business. That's from Graham writing on his Facebook page. Now, way back in the 1990s, I was working at a TV station, and I had an apartment in a complex that was just above a Target on the hillside in town. So when it came time to do a little Christmas shopping for my daughter and niece, I went over to Target. I discovered you could go over there in February, and I could buy all sorts of toys. Buy one of each so they both got the same thing. And I could buy all of these toys at discount rates in February because there's usually the prices remain high through January, and then everyone is trying to get rid of all of the unsold Christmas stuff. So I used to go to Target, and I used to find it a great place to do the Christmas shopping for the girls. And then I stopped going there as they got older because when it comes to clothing, I found nothing that they could wear. And of course, even as late as my daughter's 10th birthday, her birthday is 2 days after Christmas. As late as her 10th birthday, she used to say to me, if you buy me clothes, I'm going to throw them in the trash. But then she reached a particular point about 12 where all she wanted was clothes and she didn't want any of the toys anymore. And so, as I say, other than looking at a toaster there sometime last summer, and then I think I went down the street and I went to that other despotic business, according to the American left, Walmart, and I bought a toaster there instead of buying it at Target. I don't have anything that I want to buy at the store, so I've already been boycotting it for a number of years. And in fact, if you read the business pages, Target has been cutting staff and laying people off and closing stores, not only in the USA, but they pretty much they're out of the market altogether in Canada now, for all intents and purposes, because they couldn't handle modern business, and they don't know how to manage apparently a large chain of stores. This is a last desperate attempt on their part to say, we're enlightened, come shop here. And once more, it's right up there with that marketing decision that said, hey, you know what, I got a great idea. I think what we should do is introduce new Coca-Cola. We'll call it, new Coke. We'll come along and people will love it. And because they've only been buying, hundreds of gallons apiece of the old Coca-Cola, so they must hate it. So we'll introduce a new Coke. Yeah, it'll be new and improved and sparkling and better and Sacco Baffo. That guy is now working over at Target. 8:57. Bill Colley with you on Top Story this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. This is a line from Graham that I think that we have to remember. We are the sex God created us to be, male or female. How a person feels doesn't change the facts. Now, even you lefties out there, of course, who don't believe in God or think that she proves of all this sort of stuff. There is a reason that we are created man and female. Even if you think we just came up from the primordial sop, and ended up, we evolved into these creatures. Well, the reason that we are man and women is so that we can create more men and women. That's how it works. Works that way all over the world. News is next at 9 o'clock. One more hour of the program coming up. Roy Prescott, I believe that's his name, is joining us in a few minutes. He is a candidate for a county commissioner in Jerome County. A challenger this year, believed to Roger Morley. Mr. Morley is scheduled to join us next week on the program, so we're doing our part to be fair and balanced at News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley with you this morning. As I said, one more hour of the program still ahead. Don't go away.